Welcome to the Fresh and Fired Up podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Emily Marshall, here to help you function at your best in health, fitness, and life, along with my co-host, the wild, wonderful Hailee Piendl. Let's get fired up.
Let's get fired up. I'm so ready. I missed you last week.
I missed you too. You are amazing. And it feels like when we miss a week, okay, just to clarify, we didn't miss a week putting up the podcast. We were actually ahead of the game. We had episodes banked. I'm super proud of us.
Heck yeah.
Because there's lots of times where it was just like, we need to record something and get it out immediately because this is all we have. No, but we're actually ahead of the game. So we didn't actually get to talk last week because I was visiting my extended family. Got to give my mom a big hug because we live on the other side of the country. It was beautiful and wonderful. We spent so much time on the lake playing, like swimming, tubing, all the fun things.
Oh my gosh. I loved to, like, behind a boat or?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That was my favorite thing ever.
Isn't it so fun?
Up. Oh my gosh. I missed that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Good times. So our kids were all piled on. A neighbor of my mom's, like a longtime family friend, has a boat that they can pull like 2 big tubes behind. So there was like 8 of them, like 4 on each tube, just like having the time of their lives. It was
the
great.
Little tubes are where the fun's at, though. You know, those little flat ones.
Oh yeah, they can flip so good.
We made some airtime. My brother was brutal with that. He'd always try and like fly. And there has been a few times where he may have had to go to the hospital. So stay safe, kids.
Stay safe out there. Do your best. Hey, speaking of building resilience, though, it starts on the tubes.
It so does. You don't know how malleable you are until you hop on one of them, baby.
Yeah, and then if you're willing to get back on it after, right?
Yeah, sometimes people are sitting there in the water with their life jackets, bobbing, crying, and they're like, I want to come in the boat.
Well, and it's funny, like, I don't know, human psychology, especially for kids. Like, even last night, we took our kids. So there's this new playground at their school. They had raised a bunch of money over the last several years to put in like a brand new playground area for them. And so it's done. So they'll have this new playground coming into this school year. So our kids are like, I'm pretty sure the playground is done. Can we like walk over there and see what it looks like before school even starts? And they were all excited. Anyways, there's like this spinny thing, you know, and it's like set into the ground. So I think it's supposed to be safer. Meanwhile, they're getting it spinning like as fast as they possibly can. And my 4-year-old's in the middle, like loses his balance and just like bangs the middle, like right between his eyes, like boom, hits his head like on the bench thing. And I'm like, how is this safe? He's crying. I grab him. I'm like consoling him. I console him for maybe 3 minutes. He's got like a mark between his eyes. And he's like, can I go again? I'm like, what? You just don't care that you smashed your face off that thing?
He'll do it again.
That's what I mean. They'll just go again. Like, it wasn't that bad. I'm still alive. Let's do that again. It was somehow fun. Yeah. I don't know.
Absolutely. I think kids can be different too. Like, I feel like I was more so that when I was growing up. Like, I was biking one time and I was a really smart kid. I decided to pump the brakes, but like the front wheels brakes going really fast. And so I flipped over, lost my front teeth, and my mouth was all bloody, and I was like riding my bike, and my mom's like, what? Wait, what's going on?
What did you do? Like, who did you get in a fight with? Just fight with the handlebars, right?
Yeah, I know the pavement is what yeah.
Oh, you hit, right, because you went right over and hit oh no, yeah. That's horrible.
Yeah, my brother was completely opposite. He was such a baby.
That's because you're a superhero, Hailee, which is what we're talking about, your womanly superpowers today. So clearly you had more than your brother. Hopefully you should send him this episode. Maybe not.
Gosh, he doesn't deserve to listen to us. Come on.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Siblings. Well, here's the thing. You are one strong woman. And today we want to talk about how your cycle is a superpower. So stop training like a man. I love that title. That's what we're titling it. We haven't even finished talking, but that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, we have a whole list of titles for you guys that we look at and we never say during the episode, but now we're saying it during the episode.
Now we're saying it just because I was like, this is a great title. It needs to be said.
Stop training like a man because you're a beautiful woman.
Exactly. Oh, it's so funny. But yeah, I want to know more about this, Haley. We want to know more about this. But before we do, I almost forgot. Before we get too far into this, guys, there is a large percentage of you that follow our content and watch our YouTube channel and listen to us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, but you're not subscribed or following the show, which is fine. We still love and appreciate you, but it's an easy way. All you have to do is click the button. It doesn't cost you anything but literally just clicking, but it's an easy, free way to support the content and get the message out to more people. So more women can feel better in their bodies and how they're training, and which translates into all areas of your life. So that's my little plug for click the subscribe button,
Yeah.
follow us, and share. And here we are going to deliver some amazing value to you, because I have had this brought up to me by several women who want to know more about this cycle syncing business with workouts. And Haley has a great take on this. So, Haley, let's hear what you got.
I don't like cycle syncing.
I know. I knew that. I set her up.
I think it's way too much stress than it's worth. And it's one of those trendy fad things, right? Where we're like, ooh, let's all buy weighted vests and let's all do this and that and the other.
You can't get fit over 40 without a weighted vest.
No, you honestly can't. It's a prerequisite. So if you guys are over 40, you best be on Amazon getting your 15-pound weighted vest and
Yes,
walking and
exactly.
rocking.
Well, and,
So
and don't get us wrong. Like, we obviously have episodes where we talk about benefits of
yeah,
walking with weighted vests. But what we're saying is, like, you don't have to get stuck in like one paradigm of movement. If you hate that, like, you're like, oh, that sounds awful to me, and I'd rather be active in some other way. There are other ways to get fit and healthy. Like, there's many ways. So that's more what we're driving home. Not trying to make
yeah.
you feel bad
And I
if you.
think like cycle syncing, it's very situational because like your menstrual cycle can be genetic. Like some people just have really bad freaking periods, no matter, well, like your nutrition can be on point, your exercise can be on point, your stress levels, sleep, all of that, and you will still kind of struggle. And so some of it can be genetic. So again, super situational, like the weighted vests. If that is something, if that is someone like just starting out, like I don't want to lift weights, or like you just want to add a little bit of resistance, great, awesome. But it's not like this blanket statement of like everyone should cycle to sync and everyone should wear weighted vest because it is like God told us to do this.
Okay, so backtrack. I'm going to interject. Can you backtrack and just explain what cycle syncing is, even just so that if any of our listeners are like, what are you even talking about? They'll have some context.
Absolutely. So it was birthed by someone named Alyssa Vitti. She has two books, I believe. One is Woman Code, and the other one is In the Flow, and very heavily the main focus is cycle syncing, which is the idea of you have four phases: menstrual, follicular, ovulation, and luteal. And so there's a specific way that you should eat and train during these four, bless you,
Excuse
during
me.
these four phases. And so I have tried it in the past, and it's very stressful to have to, do your grocery list with completely different foods, maybe some foods that you don't like, eat those with your specific phases. And then also, if you have a physique goal or you're trying to gain muscle, in the book, Cycle Syncing suggests that you should do yoga and walking in your luteal and your menstrual phase, which kind of negates 2 weeks out of your whole month. So if you're trying to put on muscle, we know time under tension and like volume, you have to start to increase, put that stress on the muscle for it to grow. That's not going to happen. So again, it's very specific. And if you like trendy stuff and some people love doing this stuff, that's awesome. All the power to you. It's just functionality and like in terms of studies that have been done, there is not really many studies to prove this. And I just think it's unnecessarily putting stress on you and like mental capacity that you could be putting towards something a little bit more functional.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
And I feel like it kind of speaks to the idea of when you get so locked in on one thing and be like, oh, I must do this and it'll solve all my problems. But then when you do that and then it doesn't solve all your problems, you're going to feel really deflated. Now, it's not to say you couldn't try this. Like if, like you said, if it's something you're really into trying different trends and experimentation, then you might find that you really enjoy having kind of a cycle to things to go along with your hormonal cycle. And that's okay too. And I always like to say, don't don't turn your food habits and your exercise into a religion. Like you can, it's not. You can try something for a while and see how it's working for you, and you can adapt it and switch it and change it. It's actually better to do that anyways. Being variable in the way you're doing your movement patterns is really good. So I'll give you an example for this. I really love lifting heavy, and it's just because I like the challenge of it and it's fun, and I like some of the skills, kind of like the CrossFit style skills. I don't do like full blown CrossFit because I found I did it for years and it became too taxing on my nervous system. Like it can be really high intensity. And there was a season of my life where it was like I was overtraining. So, I was on vacation here. I just brought that up at the start with my family, and I'm not in my usual gym. So I did take some good solid rest days and it felt great, especially as I was coming off a bit of an injury, in which case now that injury is like gone. Like I don't feel anything. It feels fully healed, which is a really good feeling. So sometimes listening to your body in that way is super helpful. But then what I did do is my sister-in-law and I, it was so fun. Hailee, we took all of our nieces. We're like, you guys want to come work out with us? And on like the big front yard of my parents' place on the lake, we just took them through this whole like calisthenics workout where we're like bear crawling and crab walking and like, squatting down, shuffling and like just all, and we're just kind of like going back and forth in the yard. Like, so, and we went for a while and they're laughing and having fun. I was so sore the next day. I was like, oh man, that was just like a totally different style of working out. It was variable. It was still pretty intense. Like we were all sweating by the end. And I was like, oh, this was great. So just using that as an example of, I could have in my mind been like, well, there's no point because I'm not at my gym. When it's like, no, there was a point. Like you still used a lot of your, muscular capacity, and not to mention the quality time with like all of our nieces and my sister-in-law, and then what that does in their minds as like a core memory to be like, oh yeah, remember we had those crazy aunts who were like, you want to work out with us?
The
You know what I
crazy
mean?
ants. I love it.
Isn't
No,
that
you
so
bring up
fun?
such a good point in terms of like it's okay for things to look different and just like on a sliding scale. And it kind of tracks back to like cycle syncing where it's like you have the rules quote unquote of the cycle syncing is like you can only do a specific workout in a specific phase,
Yeah.
which like in your luteal phase, yes, there is biological differences between you and a man, and that's the main hormonal phase that differentiates you. Because if you guys don't know, 24-hour cycles are for men, which means their energy levels and their hormones cycle through a 24-hour day, which is very in line with their circadian rhythm. And so we have two rhythms essentially, one that works with the sun and moon, so our circadian rhythm, and then we also have the infradian rhythm, which is our cycle, our hormonal cycle. And so the luteal phase is what differentiates ourselves from men. And so we can be a little bit more tired, more fatigued. Our heart rate can get higher quicker. Body temperature is increased. So these are all factors that are going to play into your training. That's not to say that just because you are in your luteal phase and these things are happening, that you only need to do yoga and Pilates. Yes, you can do yoga and Pilates, but you can also strength train, and you can also have a really good workout because the hormones, I feel like people can blame hormones a lot, where it's like that's not the only factor playing into your energy levels or your capacity or your stress management. Like it can be how good was your sleep, like how's your stress, like what was work like there's so many different variables that can play into it. So just because you are in the luteal phase doesn't mean you have to quit doing your strength training. Like I did a half marathon in my last day of my luteal phase and I crushed it. Like
Sweet. Well, and Hailee, it's to your point. Okay, so on our group call last night with our clients, we talked about what one of the points was awareness, creating awareness, right? And we were talking more about identity and self-worth and, separating that from getting it all wrapped up in your body weight, accomplishments, and your career. But I think this point of when you create awareness and perspective in things, it goes a really long way. And when you become aware of your cycle and aware that, okay, you don't necessarily need to change everything about what you normally do in your workouts in each phase, but in your luteal phase, if you're like, yeah, if I am feeling a little more tired or a little more bloated or whatever you're feeling, you'll at least be aware enough to be like, oh, where am I in my cycle? And this could be a reason why I'm feeling that way. So I had a client recently. Hailee, I'm just checking because it seems like you're frozen. Can you hear me? Oh, hello. Okay, well, Hailee might be frozen, but I'm going to keep going. So what can happen is, you get this temptation to start to think, I'm not getting anywhere. I'm not making any progress. I feel so crappy. And you're asking yourself why, because you've been working hard at trying to make these health changes when all it is, oh, Hailee's completely popped off. Hopefully she's coming back on. This is just a fun little twist in our episode for you guys. But if not, you're going to be stuck with me for the rest of the time. Anyways, sorry, I was a little distracted there. But what I was trying to say was if you are trying to stick to a certain exercise regime and you're like, oh my goodness, I've been sticking to this. I've been so consistent and so disciplined. Why am I feeling so tired and crappy right now? Most likely it lines up with your luteal phase or or your menstruation phase. And at least that gives you the awareness of why you feel that way. And then you can adapt as necessary. So give me just one sec.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Hey, are you back?
Oh my gosh. I had a heart
That stressed you
attack.
out.
Okay.
So I kind of was like, oh, I think Hailee's frozen. Well, what I was trying to say was, and I'm like, well, let's see if she comes back. I'm not sure if we should chop all that
Just
out
chop
or
that out. Let's redo this.
so we could start from I'm wondering when you froze.
I froze when you started doing your segment after what I said.
Yeah, can you do you remember what you said?
It
Sorry
was
now.
like luteal phase. That's what's different. I did a half marathon and in my luteal phase, I don't know what you were going to say.
Yeah, in your luteal phase. Okay. So let's start with that. So okay. Okay, so yes, I just want to see, like, I have trouble sometimes transitioning, like, for it to sound fluid. So if you just say, how about you say that, and then I'll start talking after, and we can see what lines up best.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Okay.
just say, like, yeah, I've done a half marathon in my luteal phase.
Okay. Yeah, so I did a half marathon in my luteal phase, and like I was completely fine. So it's very subjective.
Yeah, and so that makes sense when you're looking at it and you're like, okay, let's just be aware of this. So we were on a client call, we did our group client call last night, and we were talking more about identity and self-worth and how that ties into, if we get too wrapped up in our accomplishments or career or body weight. But one of the points about that was creating awareness. And I think this can apply in this scenario as well, where you're like, just becoming aware of the fact that you have the different phases of your cycle, and that can affect your energy levels, your strength, your mood. Do you feel bloated or not? Right. And that's more likely to happen in your luteal phase, or like when you're in your menstrual, or when you're on your menstrual cycle. Then you can go, okay, I'm just going to adapt what I'm doing. I got a message from a client about this, and she was like, hey, I'm feeling really exhausted today. So I switched. I was really struggling with doing my Australian rows. I switched them to lat pull downs with the machine with a bit lighter weight rather than pulling like her full body weight. And I was like, that's great. Awesome work being adaptable and working with your body, but not just quitting or not going, because she wanted to. She wanted to stick to going. And so even just adapting certain exercises if you need to, or like Hailee said, she did a half marathon. You might just feel great and fine, and then just keep going with your usual program.
Yeah, exactly. And again, like that's so much to do with how I prepped nutritionally, physically, sleep wise. So
Yeah.
again, there's so many different factors other than just like, oh, I'm in my luteal phase, then I can't do this.
I can't do anything.
Yeah, I'm
But
just
no, but
gonna.
if you're just like, "Oh, I'm having this moment where," because I think if you're not aware of it, this is why I wanted to break
Mhm.
up awareness, and you've been training and you feel like I've been so consistent and I've been so disciplined, and why do I still feel like crap right now? Well, you might still have those days, and often it is hormonally related, or it could be sleep related, or there are different factors that could occur, but at least you can check. Like, I find the first thing I ask back to a client is like, what phase of your cycle are you in again? And then they're like, oh yeah, I'm
Mhm.
going to get my period in a day. Yeah, that's why you're sending me messages like the world's falling apart and I feel like I suck today. And it's like, that's okay, because like 48 hours from now you're going to feel great about yourself again.
Ex-
And that's not to undermine those feelings. It's just to be like, okay, if I can just work through this next day, the next day is probably going to be a lot better.
exactly. And like that's why we include that in our check-in form, like what cycle or what phase of your cycle are you in, because that's going to impact like how strong you feel to some extent, your cravings, and
Yes.
like how hungry you are. Because same with your sleep too. I think that if you don't track your cycle, you can go through life and like it's so confusing because the previous week, follicular phase, woohoo, I feel so good. I feel like myself. Everything's awesome. And then you head into like late luteal and like the world's falling apart. I hate my husband for some reason. He didn't even do anything.
Exactly.
And it's just like, why do I feel like this? And then if you know that you're in that phase, you can expect and have that realistic expectation from yourself of like, okay, I might have some chocolate cravings. And so I'm not going to deny myself. I might feel a little bit more hungry, and that's very normal. And I'm just going to have an extra snack. You might feel a little bit more tired. So that's okay. I'm going to maybe spend a little bit more time in my stretching, or, like your client did as well, like just lower the bar just a little bit. You don't have to completely stop, but just be aware that this is the phase where you're going to feel what you're feeling. And that's very
Yes.
normal. I think we can get very inside of our heads too, because most of us have male counterparts. So men are very different as well, right? So since the 24-hour cycle, they like stop putting creamer in their coffee and they drop 10 pounds. And we're like, what the heck? What's going on?
Yeah.
So, or like, a lot of the research has been done by men. So, like, fasting is very heavily pushed, and that can do really brutal with our hormones. So, there's so much information that we're getting barked at, and like, it's not working, and we can feel really crazy, or like, our willpower is just not existent. And then having that other example of like the man in your life being this being so super easy because this is male dominated, like, fasting is good for
Yeah.
men, not so much for reproductive women. You can feel really frustrated. So just knowing that you are different and that's a very normal thing, and just like having that realistic expectation of like what to expect from yourself and not just like comparing yourself constantly.
Yeah. And it's okay. I'm big on this, Hailee, like owning your feminine energy.
Hmm.
And I used to get really disappointed in myself when I was like, there were certain things that I'm like, I can do everything a man can do and I can do it better. You know, that whole phase of life. And then I realized, like, what?
Why?
No. Why? So, like, I'll give you a recent example. I tell you that John and I did like a 2-day paddle down the Peace
No.
River?
Oh my gosh.
Okay,
Fill me in.
it was so fun. We had packed like a small amount of stuff, just some like simple food and a small tent, and we paddled down the river. And like where we live, you can paddle for like 30 kilometers and like not see a house or a person, or like it's like actual wilderness. And so when you pull off to camp, you're not there's no campsites. It's just like find a place that works beside the massive bear prints. We saw 6 bears.
What?
Yeah,
Like black
6
bears or
bears,
brown bears?
black bears.
Oh, thank
Black
gosh.
bears, and like what else did we see? We saw moose and eagles. And anyways, we live in the wilderness and I love it and it's great. I digress. But this is what's so funny is there wasn't really a good spot to put our little tent. So we found this sandy area at like the base of a creek that had dried up that was like would have connected into the river, but it's just been really dry. And so we're like, oh, there's this little sandy area. That'd be a great place to sleep, but it wasn't quite big enough for the tent. Coolest thing, we're walking and John's like, oh, there's like the head of an old spade shovel that had broken off that would have been just like at the bottom of the river. It was all rusty, but he's like, I can use that to like dig out some of these rocks and like add sand and make us like a nice place to sleep. And he's like shirt off and he's just like hefting dirt and he's like doing it all. And I'm like, he stopped for a second, took a breath, like he looked tired. And I was like, here, do you want me to do some? Like take a break. And I do like one shovel and I'm like, oh my goodness, you made this look really easy. I was like, just kidding. This is a man's job here. You can
Blue
finish it.
job, blue job, blue job.
Yeah, so I was like, I'm gonna go gather sticks for a fire.
I'm gonna go pick some berries.
So then I know this was the joke. I was like, because my husband does hunt, and I'm like, yeah, in the hunter-gatherer society, I'm definitely a gatherer. I gathered all these sticks and I gathered all these stones and like made us a little fire pit, and yeah, he did everything else. It was great.
It's I think it's so much we're so much happier. And
Yeah.
that like plays into like when I was definitely like in more and more masculine, like, yeah, I can do everything myself.
Yes.
My period went missing. Oopsie.
Yeah.
So that definitely is a thing where if you're like constantly stressed out, like we're not supposed to be the same thing, which is very
Yeah.
okay. Like you're allowed to sleep in a little bit. You don't have to get up for your 5 a.m. workout in your late luteal phase if like that's not the calling of yours, right? And I think
Yeah.
that like just being okay with being different and like really embracing your feminine nature and your feminine energy and being like, yeah, I can receive, I can be the hunter gatherer. Like life doesn't have to be a constant stress ball. And
Exactly.
so if you are a constant stress ball and like you're I think like we can get into this but we don't have to, like the whole feminine kind of thing, or what's it called, feminism, really drives home like career and you're supposed to work really hard and we can do freaking everything, and it's like, well, sure, but like I'm stressed out.
Yeah, but it can be very toxic.
Yeah.
And, oh, there's a book. I haven't even read the book, but John, I need to read it at some point. He told me about a book that talks about like the roots and the origins of feminism and then like what it's kind of done, the ramifications that have occurred within our modern society. And I'm like, oh, and anyways, he just kind of gave me the Coles notes on it. So I can't speak to it too much because I haven't like actually done that much reading. But I'm like, oh, that sounds fascinating. I want to know more about that because I feel like it's a big deal.
I think it is very
Yeah.
big deal and like a very big reason why a lot of women are unhappy.
Yeah.
Hot take on that, but yeah, I definitely agree with like just roles, and I don't think that's a bad thing. Like
No, it's
I
not.
would
And
love to
hopefully,
stay home and clean and take care of my children. Like please
yeah,
sign me up. Don't make me go to work.
we've talked about this. But I mean, that being said, like you're obviously a really hard worker, right? Like
Yeah.
for both of us, like we're kind of balancing both worlds. That being said, there are certain things that just because of the way our society is, we have to do and we will do them. But if we didn't have to, I feel like I'd be okay with it. You know, like
Absolutely.
well, kind of coming back to what we talked about last night, where it's like, this doesn't have to be part of your identity. It's like, well, I'm only worthy if I can do everything a man can do. Like that's the narrative. And it's like, that's not true.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Anyways,
I don't think like nor should we. Like would I rather have a man carry me out of a burning building? Yeah, sorry.
that's super hot in more ways than one. I remember I got in a bad car accident in university, which was not fun. I don't recommend it, but I had like passed out and the windshield cracked in and all that stuff. And I just remember like I passed out and I saw this shadow of like this big, strong firefighter dude like pulling me out of the car. And I was just like, yes, save me, save my life.
Save my life, you strong man. We love it.
Oh dear. Okay. Anyways, so if you disagree with us, please put it in the comments. If you agree with us, put it in the comments of our YouTube channel. We want to stimulate some
Yeah,
interaction here. We're
engage,
okay.
engage, engage.
Yeah, we're okay with being controversial, by the way. We do have our own opinions and we're allowed. Right, Haley?
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you have a
Uh,
problem with that, comment for us to not
yes.
talk as much.
I
I'm
know.
never
I
going to
love
live that
that.
down. That the person watching right now, yeah, you've impacted us.
Eternally. No, that's so funny. So we've kind of touched on like our take on cycle syncing, given you some background, which we do have other detailed episodes on female period phases. I want to know more. Okay, tell me about, because people search this. I know they search, we've looked into it, that you search hormone friendly training. I want to talk about what that means. Hormone friendly training and like workout plans for women. Like what are your, these are things that people look up. Like are you, I you might be like, no, that's not a thing, but if it's a thing, tell us about it.
It's an interesting take because like I don't know your goals. Like what is your goal?
Yeah,
Do
you can't
you
just
like do you want to build muscle? Like I think that you should because hormone like what was it? Hormone balancing workouts?
hormone friendly training.
Strength
Like
training.
yeah, like strength training, but I think this is something people look up. They hear an episode like this and they're like, "Oh yeah, I should be training like to work with my female hormones, and like I'm a woman, so I should look up like woman friendly workouts." These are the type of things that if you don't really have a background in it, you're like, "Well, I'm just going to search this, or I'm just going to type this
Okay.
into Chatty P, right?" And what is that spitting out to people? I don't really know. I'm not sitting here doing it right now,
Yeah.
but when you hear these types of comments or these types of searches, are you debunking it? Are you like, well, no, there's not like the best way to work out for all women and their hormones?
Yeah, absolutely
Or
there
are you
isn't.
like, it's very specific to the individual? Does that
It's
make sense?
it's super specific to the individual, but I think there should be some capacity of strength training for literally everybody and anyone.
Yeah.
Where it can get a little bit dicey is like hit training and those kind of things where it's like we've been shoved down our throats that hit is going to like the best for fat loss to the point where people take that to the extreme and they're doing hit literally every day and your body has zero time to recover from it, which can impact your hormones quite negatively because you're in a constant state of stress and you're overtraining likely, right? So I think it's super individual, but you should have these are the components that you should have with your training program. Strength training, focusing on progressive overload. You should have some form of cardio just for heart health. And like HIT can be super specific because like I do have clients who are like trying to get their cycles back and come down from that overtraining. So if you're in an overtrained state, HIT is not a great idea because it's very taxing on your nervous system. So maybe take that out and just wait until like you've recovered fully. However, HIT style training can be really good for postmenopausal or menopausal women. So again, it's super specific, but you should have all components in terms of like strength training, maybe even like a step count. Steps are really good because it's not taxing on your nervous system, but it's part of your NEAT, your non-exercise activity thermogenesis, like equation of your metabolism and your calorie output for the day. So if you are in a fat loss phase, those are some things that you can take into consideration because steps are so much better and they're not going to increase your hunger, where like HIT can also increase your hunger. So you're going to be more hungry, and which is a little bit, dicey to maintain in a calorie deficit. Um, but in terms of like hormone specific, that's kind of my take on it. And like as an umbrella, it's very situational.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so to speak to what you're talking about, hit training in different phases. I got on the like hit workout train, well, my like after having babies, And it was like, I started HIIT training every day, like you said, like I think too close to having one of my babies. And it was like in my mind, I was like, oh, I'm getting so skinny. I'm getting my body back. But I was not sleeping because I was still in like newborn phase and I was totally overtraining. But I want to speak to this because I think it's really important. If you have done that, and I did it for quite a long time, then when I was trying to shift to more of like progressive overload, work with my body, have proper recovery, get better sleep, because I was just like, screw it, I don't need sleep. I can survive without it. Like that's the kind of stuff I was telling my mind, and my body was suffering from it and my mind. Yeah. Anyways, my point is, if you've come through doing that, it can be very addictive. And so even now I have my days where I'm like, it's been so long since I've done like a bunch of HIIT workouts in a row. And I almost get a little like anxiety where I'm like, I'm not doing enough. I'm not training hard enough. I do train a lot. So I'm not at risk for like not doing enough. Right.
Yeah.
So the psychology, you really got to work on that side of it too. Cause you're like, these HIIT style workouts can be kind of addictive, and if you want to go and shift and change that a bit because maybe you have been overtraining and it's not working the way you hoped, then you have to watch your own mindset to not feel like everything else feels like I'm not doing anything or I'm not doing enough, so it's not even worth it. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It makes total sense. And like to your point, it's going to feel uncomfortable. And I think that's more so the thing that people struggle with is like
Yeah.
they're addicted to sweating and they're addicted to like the hard work and the adrenaline and the endorphins of getting the HIIT style. So when you switch over to strength training where you're not going to sweat as much or as profusely, it feels uncomfortable. Doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means that it's different, and any change, whether it be good or bad, is going to feel really uncomfortable at the start. So just like know that just because like it's uncomfy and it's not your normal doesn't mean that you should not be doing it. More so
Mhm.
you should definitely kind of pay attention of how you're feeling. And like you said, your sleep was gross, it was brutal. That's a very big sign that you're overtrained and your central nervous system is kind of taxed. And another sign, some people track this, some people don't, but a very common thing that I see when people are overtraining or doing too much is low HRV. So that's your heart rate
Oh yeah.
variability. And so if you do track that, or if you have a watch, it will like be very low. And that's a very great sign that your sympathetic nervous system is dominating and your parasympathetic nervous system is not. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's a good point.
yeah.
That's a good one to bring up. Well, and part of the reason that we really love to push strength training is because it's going to give you muscle gain, and you can't rely on the scale. You're gonna step on the scale and you'll be like, why do I weigh the same? Well, because you are shifting your body composition, and when you build muscle, it weighs something. You're gonna shift from your body fat percentage is gonna lower, and the goal is not to get rid of all your body fat. As females, we need some, so you're not going for no body fat, but if you have a higher range of body fat, then it's going to lower and you're going to increase that muscle mass. On the opposite end, which is extremely good for your health and your longevity, it's going to prevent like it plays a role in like osteoporosis prevention, not being sarcopenic too early, sorry,
Earlier.
earlier, sarcopenia too early. That's hilarious. Anyways, it's going to help with you not get dementia too. Not just I'm saying that
Wait, what? Wait, what were we just talking about?
I'm showing early signs of it, I think. But that's just because I had a lot of concussions. Okay, let's get back on track. But the point is, you're going to gain muscle, and that's going to be extremely good for your health. And that's why, even on the other end, if you have a very low body fat percentage and you're also doing these HIIT style workouts, your body is not gaining muscle like, and you're not getting enough calories and you're not getting enough so on either end, right?
Mm-hmm.
It can be really good to shift so that you can gain muscle whether whether you're on the low end of body fat percentage or the higher end of body fat percentage. Muscle gain is going to be good in both of those scenarios.
Absolutely. And something that's kind of funny to me, actually, like the books I referenced at the beginning, Women Code and In the Flow, where like cycle syncing was birthed.
Yeah.
Um, you know how it's like, oh, do yoga and do walking in your luteal phase and your menstrual phase. She
Yeah.
had PCOS, and the reason why she created this whole flow of different phases was because she wanted to heal her PCOS. And
Yeah.
ironically, one of the best things that you can do for PCOS and like insulin resistance is gain muscle, which you're not going to be doing if you're cycle syncing.
Isn't you're laughing about it.
I'm like
Oh,
connecting the dots. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is crazy.
this is not making
Yeah.
people be
Also, to
crazy.
your
Well,
point,
yeah.
body fat is like an organ and it has purpose. So don't try and get rid of everything. I know it can be very convincing when you see all these like really lean supermodels on the internet. But
They have a lot
yeah,
they have a lot of problems.
yeah,
They're not talking about a lot of health issues, and I have met them in real life, and I start to see, oh my goodness, you can't sleep unless you have a sleeping pill.
yeah.
Like, or there's so many different things.
Nothing
Yes.
is like by
There's always a
accident.
cost. Yeah, there's always a cost.
Yeah,
There's always a trade-off.
absolutely.
Before we run out of time though, Haley, I want you to just touch on progressive overload because you said it. And I'm wondering if there's anyone listening who's like, what do you mean progressive overload? Can you just give like an overview of that?
Yes, absolutely. I'll put this in very simple terms. I made a piece of content on this, but you pick up a weight, say you're going to do like back rows or whatever. You hit like 8 to 10 reps or 10 to 12. Once you get to a point where you can do more reps, pick up a heavier weight. And that's essentially progressive overload where you're stressing the muscle so it can grow. Your body, again, we've talked about this so many times, is very adaptable. So it adapts to the stress that you put it under. So once you start to feel like the weight that you've been doing that used to feel hard feels easy, pick up a higher one. And so that's going to stimulate the muscle growth and begin to tear the muscles again. And then they repair and they grow. And that's how you build muscle and essentially progressive overload.
That's good. That's a good, concise description of it. Do you ever then switch in lower reps? Like, or do you kind of like that 8 to 10 rep
It
range?
depends on the goal. I know that's so annoying, but I have a few clients who are in like their power phase, which is lower reps, more sets. So that's kind of how we switch it out. But most of the ladies who are trying to gain muscle, hypertrophy is the best. So we do end up being around like 8 to 12-ish rep range.
Yes. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and I guess depending on if you're wanting your training to translate to a certain sport,
Mm-hmm.
like I know you guys should look back. We had an Olympic bobsledder on this podcast. It's a cool episode, but like clearly she is needing to train power in her legs.
Mm-hmm.
They're running extremely powerfully on ice. So that would just be, okay, what am I training for a specific sport? That could then play a role in like, are you doing more power or hypertrophy or
Exactly.
et cetera?
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense. Excellent. This was a fun episode. Okay, so is there anything else that you want to bring up on this topic?
I wanted to touch on calorie restriction too, just as like a little send off here. Differentiating ourselves from like men to and women. Men are
Yes.
really responsive to calorie restriction, and women are quite the opposite, where we tend to like start to dip into low energy availability when we are heavily restricting our calories. Ironically, women are more so the type to go 1200 calories and ruin their lives. And then like
That's
your
super low,
hormones go
by the way.
haywire and you're wondering why, and you're wondering why you can't lose weight. It's because like your body specifically as a woman is very sensitive to calorie restriction. So if you are in like a fat loss phase or you want to go into a fat loss phase, make sure that your body is prepped and you're not just like mindlessly or blindly restricting your calories, because it will bite you in the little bum later on.
Well, and we are going to do an episode on whether or not you can actually eat more and lose weight as a woman, and like a bit more detail on reverse dieting and metabolism healing and all those fun things. So stay tuned for that episode. Come and check us out again. Make sure you share this episode with a friend. Rate, review, subscribe, all the fun things. We love and appreciate you. And in the meantime, be free, feel fresh, and live on fire.